This past Monday, Monroe County Community College had a panel discussion in the cafeteria about race relation. President Kojo Corte led the panel, which was a part of the current events series on campus.
We live in a country which is the greatest nation in the world, bar none, because of our diversity. We are the greatest nation in the world because of our diversity. So we want to have these discussions that edify and illuminate and educate our community. It's a current affairs event to deal with issues that are happening now, here and now.
The panel included 6 members, all with different areas of expertise and experience on the subject of race relations.
Selma Rankins, retired teacher in Monroe.
Joel Fiedler, adjunct sociology professor here at Community College.
Reverend Eric Tucker, pastor of Cary Chapel, AME.
Jim DeVries, I was a faculty member here from 1970 to 2010, and currently I'm on the board.
My name is Dan Shaw, and I teach journalism here at the college, and spent 35 years as a journalist covering race relations in several different states.
Delbert Blackshear, student at Spring Arbor University, doing an internship with Dr. Kojo.
The panel members and audience discussed how race relations are in Monroe. Most agreed that Monroe is full of good people and that Monroe is headed in the right direction.
First, I think the relationship between black and white in Monroe is real good, real good.
I think that our race relations are on a good track here because we're getting down to seriously discussing things and looking at the facts.
Perception that I think about when I first came to Monroe is the lack of black business, the lack of social interactivity amongst each other, not just for blacks, but for also, the Mexican culture here as well. There isn't no infrastructure set up. So what are we trying to do, not only as a community, but also as a school here? What are we doing to try to change that?
It's moving forward. Our college is moving forward. You think about the entire community here. And most recently, the institution that's been the most progressive is this institution, Monroe County Community College. Monroe County Community College they dared to hire a president who's black. One would say that I had to be the best candidate to be hired for this position. Of course I had to be hired. They didn't hire me because I was black, but it just so happens that I am black. And so then we begin to push the envelope and we further integrate this community, diversify, let's use that word, diversify this community. This is a place that's happening here, and it's spreading like wildfire. It's going to get better.
I still think there is some debate and racial profiling in Monroe, but over time, I think it would get better if we teach younger kids how to treat other people and how they want to be treated.
Panel member Selma Jenkins made his feelings known about Monroe schools. He thinks that schools need to hire black teachers to inspire black students, and that students need to be held to a higher standard when it comes to their academics.
Kids who look like me, they are not learning. Their test scores are like this, and we got superintendents who will only hire people who look like him. Out of 80 new members of the National Honor Society, which is big at the high school, we have 1 black kid. We have bad superintendent, super bad superintendent, super bad ISD, and good kids.
The panel discussed what racism actually is, and whether the issues people are having are actually issues of race or issues of class.
A lot of racism is not just, okay, I'm deliberately going to be racist or prejudiced against you. It's systematic.
I would like to say that racism is not a moral failing. It's built into our cultural codes, and we didn't ask for them to be there.
We haven't integrated them. There's still things to be done. But what we haven't made much progress, as a matter of fact, research shows we've gone backwards, is the class mobility problem. If you're born poor in America, you tend to stay poor in America. And so I think a lot of the problem that we see as race problems today are problems that are intertwined between race and class.
So I agree with you in the notion of class being an underlying issue. However, I think there is a issue here also of race, that African Americans have not been able to do the same things that other Europeans or other people, even from Asian countries, have been able to do.
Panel member Delbert Blackshear told everyone that sometimes issues aren't always what they seem.
I was taught this by not having a problem with white friends and having open discussions with my white friends. That to the point she would say, Delbert, that's not a black thing. Or Delbert, that's not a white thing. Because there's a lot of things that I thought was racism from white people, but it wasn't racism, it was just people. We have a lot, as black people, we have a lot to learn to differentiate between what is racism and what is just simply people being people.
There was a discussion about racists. Can black people be racist, or can only white people in power be racist?
Racism is a cultural construct. It's simply an instance of ethnocentrism, which seems to be a tendency of human beings across the world.
And there's no way that the black racism has kept me from going anywhere I want. I mean, what effect is the racism? So you have to consider the dimension of power in here and the consequences.
Black people certainly can develop a hatred or a dislike or a prejudice toward whites because of the way they feel like they've been treated, or for some serendipitous reason. They may hate white people just because, but that does not mean, that's not racism to me.
If it didn't exist, well, when the first Voting Rights Act was passed back in the early 1800s, when blacks outnumbered whites in the South because of slavery, the reason Jim Crow was brought into effect was because they feared black people voting. It was more black people in office from voting because it was more black people. To say that it's not possible for black people to be racist when we're talking about a definition of racism, I just don't agree with that.
Just throw the question out, no, because we're going to say, see, the blacks are doing it too, so it's okay if we do it. It's an illegitimate question.
Current events like the Trayvon Martin case and the Ferguson riots were discussed. Are black people living in fear of police brutality?
I was in the South in Alabama, got stopped by the police, and the first thing I did when he was coming up to me, I put my hands on the steering wheel. And every question he asked me, yes sir, no sir. A few months ago I was in Grand Rapids, same thing happened. My hands on the steering wheel, yes sir, no sir. I am taking no chances, people. You're not gonna beat me. If I were white, would I have to do that? I don't know.
The issue with the police officers and white people in general, I think there's a general over-exaggeration of the threat that blacks give to us.
When Trayvon Martin was murdered, I watched my child watch that every single day. She followed it. All I could hear and all I would hear her hearing and repeatedly listening on her phone is him screaming, help me, help me, help me. I'm petrified that someone can kill their father or their brother without any remorse and without any justice whatsoever. That is fear.
I did learn some new things about police. They should be more organized and have more training before they just go out into the city. I mean, they shouldn't treat a neighborhood like Iraq.
The general consensus was that people are people who just need to be accepted, and Monroe County Community College is on the right track.
Yes, I think it's terrible what's happened. I think the silver lining could be that it could force us to have a conversation on college campuses and across America that get deeper into the issue, that in effect forces white people to face the fact that we have not made as much progress as we think we have.
The best thing you can do is love the people that you're around, get to know them, let those stereotypes fall away.
But I really do think building relationships is the first step towards mitigating any issue of prejudice, because a lot of it stems from people not understanding each other, knowing that we're all basically the same. We need love, We need to be accepted. We all need to be safe. You know, we need our well-being. We all have those things in common. I think if we can get to the place where we realize our commonness is far greater than our differences, then we can build relationships and bridges.
I think it went very well. There's so many issues to talk about. There's, you know, we could get into all kinds of other issues, but I think it went very well. We touched on the major issues, the historical as well as the more current events, and we saw different perspectives from people. But essentially, similar to what Jim DeVries said, we just need to have a better understanding of each other. And what I said, we need to have better communication with each other, talk about these issues, and then realize that we're all one. There's only one race, that's the human race.